Fox News contributor Andrea Tantaros joins us now as we talk a little politics. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good
Thanks
morning.
For coming on. What do you think of that union story, by the way, in Ohio? There's a lot of things we could talk about federally. We can talk about the budget and everything else. But as Dakin said earlier, we haven't seen the big protest there of Wisconsin, but in many ways it's more far-reaching.
Yeah, and this is a theme that I don't think is going to go away. I think it's going to lead up into 2012. You heard the president get involved in this. And I don't think this bodes well for the unions. After the Wisconsin fight, you saw there was a story on CNN saying, oh, look, the unions won because now they're energized and they're galvanized. Well, look, that's the worst spin I've ever heard in my life. Unions trying to maintain these big, generous packages in an era when we're all having to cut back, I don't think is a winning message. And I don't think it's one that's going to resonate well in 2012.
It's the public sector union versus the private sector union.
Yeah.
And if it's if they're retiring comfortably off the backs of taxpayers whose taxes are going up to pay for these benefits, these health and retirement benefits, then that's the general sense that you get if you talk to people in the country.
Yeah, taxpayers are saying, look, we've all had to have some shared sacrifice. We're all kicking in money. Government's wasting the money. State governments are wasting the money. Now you're trying to keep feeding the unions. No, we're not going to have any part of it.
In Washington, the big question has been whether or not we'd have a government shutdown and we're going to get some sort of a deal on the budget. And now it's looking more and more like we will get some sort of an agreement, budget cuts, $30 billion or more. I guess we avoid all this at the end of the day.
Yeah,
or do we?
I never thought we'd have a shutdown, a showdown, not a shutdown. And I think the Democrats, as much as some of them want to push this because they think it'll bode well for them, I don't think it bodes well for any of them. I mean, as a conservative, I say shut it down. Shut down Washington, shut down the government. I love it when they're not doing anything because then they can't spend any more of our money.
But the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the compromise would be $33 billion.
$33 billion.
Cuts. There are a lot of conservatives, whether you want to call them Tea Partiers or not, that are not going to be happy with that number. Because the House bill was $61 billion, and that is, a little bit. It's roughly half of that. There got to be some people who are unhappy.
Well, it's nothing compared to the $3 trillion. We were working with a $3 trillion budget, right? A lot of these members that are unhappy are freshmen. They've never had to run for re-election, and even when they do, they're in safe seats, so they can go out there and make these claims. Oh, we got to cut $100 billion. I think that was Republicans. I don't want to say problem, but I think they did box themselves in when they said $100 billion, because as you know, I know from working on the Hill, it's tough to do anything up there, cut anything. So $33 billion, it's a drop in the bucket. I think the one who's going to have the real issues after this is John Boehner, because he's going to have to deal with a very split caucus.
Is it fractured? I mean, to the extent that
absolutely.
So there's so that story is real in your view, that the Tea Party versus the Republican establishment. That's a big story.
I think it's absolutely true. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of fiscal conservatives that were elected that know they need to come home and tell their constituents, I did what I promised.
Where's the president been in all this? Where's the president been in all this?
Oh, he goes to Brazil.
Vice President Biden has been involved, Chief of Staff Bill Daley involved in these negotiations, but
he pushes these big decisions to, he outsources the hearings down at Ground Zero. He gives these trials. I'm going to give them to Holder. I'm going to give the health care bill to Pelosi and Reid. I'm going to give the budget to Biden. In December, he came out and he said, I'm personally looking forward to working with Republicans. We've got to, if we're ever going to cut the deficit, if we're serious about it, we have to look at Social Security and Medicare. His budget's a joke. It did none of that. And so he runs off to Brazil. He even goes into war, which is a war, when he's in Brazil. So I don't think it's a good visual for him. I think Democrats have even said, where are you? We need you.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to bring up when we were saying about, oh, this is a drop in the bucket, because it really is. I mean, it's all politics right now, because until you deal with Social Security and Medicare, whether it's $30 or $60 billion, I mean, does it matter? Yeah, but it matters more politically, to me anyway, than it matters in terms of economics. But I just want to go back to the Republican story a little bit, because is that a big one that going into 2012, if they're not on the same page, it affects their ability to beat the president?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on what candidate they put up, too.
Right.
You have Mitt Romney, who I think is really... I mean, he's the godfather of universal health care. Say what you want about him. And he's an early front runner, and they tend to fade quickly. Remember George Allen a couple years ago? Everyone was jumping up and down the establishment candidate, saying it's going to be George Allen. As we see now, it wasn't George Allen.
Donald Trump, he was on the O'Reilly Factor last night, a multi-part interview on again tonight. I mean, incredible stuff, very compelling, but then he
Yeah.
starts talking about the president's birth certificate.
Yeah, the birther thing, he's got to drop that. But I like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. These conservatives and Republicans, they come out and they say, oh, is this a PR stunt? Oh, I don't like his hair. Oh, is he conservative enough?
But
I don't know. Let the man
But you know
talk.
what? If you're worried
Let
about
the man
if you're
talk.
worried about money issues in this country, and you're worried about this country's credit card and the danger of it getting cut
Yeah.
up, who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to Donald Trump. You like him or not, whether you like his appearance or not.
He's got the biggest megaphone of any of the candidates. Who gets attention? Tim Pawlenty? Newt Gingrich? No.
Well, that's not a
Donald
good-
Trump.
if you're-
Everybody knows who he is. He can.
2 words, celebrity apprentice.
Yeah, but you're not in a good
You gotta-
spot if you're the Republicans and you're turning to Donald Trump. If that's at this point.
My point is,
You're not in a good
that I'm
spot.
endorsing him.
But
I'm
you're
just
not
saying.
you're not a good spot if you dismiss him, though. If people quickly dismiss him,
No, I'm not saying
that's
what-
dangerous for any other candidate.
No, he's a big personality. He'll be great to listen to. Trust me, nothing would make me happier than to cover a Donald Trump campaign. But if you're the Republicans at this point in the cycle against an incumbent president and you're turning to Donald Trump, that says a lot about your
I
other
think we're
candidates.
turning to him. I'm just saying, look, Republicans have a tough time getting their message out there. The president
Right.
controls the bully pulpit, right? Anybody who wants to help weaken the case against President Obama, like when he talks about China, when he talks about spending, I say, have at it, Mr. Trump. Do it. Just stop with the